Hey guys, what's going on? So I made this video last night, and in between getting it sent out, or exported and whatnot, somehow I lost audio on it, and of course I deleted all the original files. So I'm going to voice over this. So the purpose of this video is it's a series on building or putting together an affordable, a budget long-range hunting rifle. That's the new fad. You know, guys wanting to shoot 800 to 1,000 yards. Looking online, you know, I don't want to name names, but just for rifles, you're getting $5,000-$6,000. Some of you getting up and higher than that, and that's crazy for somebody like myself. But let's go ahead and start this off. As you can see, we've got a Weatherby rifle, Weatherby Vanguard. They're, in my eyes, absolutely underappreciated rifles. They shoot great out of the box. I've got a couple of them. I got a 300 and a 257, and honest to God, guys, with hand loads, they're quarter-inch rifles. They shoot great. I mean, they're not the prettiest rifles in the world, but man, I care what a rifle looks like. I want to have the confidence in the rifle when I pull that trigger, the bullet's going to go where I want. I looked at the Thompson Center cheaper rifles. I looked at the Winchester cheaper rifles. I do have a cheaper Ruger American in the safe. Love it. I got it in 6.5 Creedmoor, but I was looking for a Magnum. I already have a 308. I do have another 7 mag, but I wanted to get something for my son so he can fling some bullets. So let's open this box up. Come on, open it up. So we got the rifle in the box. I went with the 7 mag. It's real flat shooting. In the bag there, you've got your standard owner's manual, the rifle bolt, and the cheap crappy lock. That 7 mag, it's not the flattest shooting in the world, but out of 100 cartridges I was looking at, it's like number 14, 16 in flat shooting right now. It looks like the 6.5 300 Weatherby is the flattest shooting you can find. So it was a debate between that 6.5 300 and this 7 mag. And sorry, this table I'm on is really squeaky, so I'm just trying to do this voiceover, and so I don't have to take the gun apart. So you got your manual. Always read those manuals, guys. I mean, there's good information and information you've seen 1,000 times, but there's always something different. It's like, oh, I didn't know that kind of thing in there. So take your time, read through that. Got an empty bag there now. And we'll be getting that rifle out of the box. This is the first time I ever had to do a voiceover, so I might be on the struggle bus a bit, but we'll get through it so we don't have to waste this footage and waste the time putting the rifle together. Right there, I'm looking for the Weatherby target. Usually Weatherby sends a target with every Vanguard, and there was no target in this box. Now this was the rifle that was on the sales floor where I got it. So obviously they lost it. Unless Weatherby stopped doing that, I couldn't tell you. But every other Weatherby I've purchased has had the target in there. So it's just a plain Jane Vanguard 2. There's nothing fancy about this rifle. Again, the name is budget long-range hunting rifle. Now one thing they did do on the trigger guard there is they got a little painted on W for Weatherby. So none of my other Weatherbys have that. So that's kind of neat. It's got a 3-position safety on it. Me personally, I don't care if it's a 3 or a 2. Always, you know, be safe with your guns, guys. If you're going to own a gun, be responsible, learn the safety on it, do the safety, and whatnot. So, I couldn't tell you what I'm talking about right now in the video. I was probably talking 1,000 miles a minute. So we're smacking that bolt in there. Now this rifle here, and like all my other rifles, I mean it's not got a silky bolt on it. It doesn't have a rough bolt. It's just not super silky or anything like that. But it works. I mean, it's a budget rifle. We'll go over the pricing afterwards. getting back to, like, I picked up that cheaper Winchester. That thing, just the stock felt like plastic on it, so I didn't like it. Here we're going to check the trigger pull on this one, and I'm not going to lie to you. And it all depends on where you put your trigger gauge on that trigger, the angle of the dangle kind of thing when you're pulling her back. This one's got the short stubby, and I can't rotate it. It's locked in place there. But this trigger, guys, out of the box, pulled 2 pounds 14 ounces twice, back to back, almost exact trigger pulls. The two other Weatherbys I keep referring to, the Vanguards, I put Timney triggers in them because they just had so much creep in them. And I want to say my 300 was close to 5 pounds, and I think the 257 was about 3 pounds, but it was a ton of creep in there. I mean, you could just feel that trigger, like 1/32 of an inch just creeping through there. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm blown away with the trigger that's on this rifle right now. I'm gonna go out tomorrow and do the bore seasoning, bore breaking, barrel breaking. So I'm really excited to go shoot this trigger. I didn't feel much creep on it. It broke pretty cleanly. It did have 3/8 a half inch take up on it, kind of like a 2-stage trigger, which is no big deal to me, but it broke at 2 pounds 14 ounces. So I'm like blown away by it. That's phenomenal. That's awesome. So let's put that scale away and let's get to mounting the rail and scope rings and whatnot. Another thing about the Weatherby company, this rifle is built by Hoya out of Japan for Weatherby to Weatherby specs. It doesn't have a Weatherby bolt. It doesn't have a Weatherby barrel, just to their QC and whatnot. And I'm telling you, one of the most underappreciated rifles out there. Thompson Center and Ruger right now, Savage, they all have a good lock on the affordable rifles. And you could find a cheaper 7 mag. I got this in 7 mag. You can find a cheaper 7 mag, 300, 350. But I've read so many bad things, like about the Mossberg, about the Winchester. Ruger, I couldn't find a 7 mag at all. Thompson Center, I couldn't find a 7 mag. Found this 7 mag. So that's cool. And I've had great luck with the rifles. With those 2 rifles, I guarantee I've harvested well over 100 big game animals with those rifles. So what I like to do, there's 2. Usually they got screws threaded into the top of them scope mounting screws there on the top of the rifle. These just had little plastic caps on it. So we'll pop them caps out and start getting the mounting some stuff. Now when I mount everything, I like to get everything all together so I'm not making 30 trips to find something. So off to the side I had everything I thought I needed. I didn't open the rail or the rings prior. I was missing the proper torque wrench for the big nut on the rings to mount it to the base, but I had everything else pretty much ready to go. So we're getting through here, and I do apologize, guys. It bummed me out so bad that I even put this video on YouTube, and I had a buddy tell me, "Hey man, you're right there. That's that Arken Optics SH-4. I'm excited about that scope." But I had a buddy tell me there was no audio on the file, even though before I exported it, I did I watched the video, made sure it wasn't too goofy, and sent it out. So obviously some user error there. So those threaded holes, there's oil in there, and I try to Loctite everything on these guns. Blue Loctite. Don't use green; you'll never get it apart. But use the blue. So run some alcohol in there, get that oil out of there on a Q-tip. And I'm just letting it dry right there. So I got my went and grabbed some levels for getting the scope mounted. So I'm just making sure I got all the alcohol out of there, any residual oils, whatnot. Just checking it one more time with the dry end of the Q-tip here. I'm sure taking my sweet time in this video, huh? But we're rocking and rolling. You know, a little extra prep here when you're mounting everything up goes a long way for your accuracy. I must have forgot something there, so I'm going to look for it, but I don't remember what I was looking for. Oh, you know what? I think I was checking the battery life on the GoPro. So anyway, I got an outer impact 20 MOA rail. Now the scope's got, I wanted to say the scope's got 108 MOA of adjustment. That's quite a bit. I still like going with the 20 MOA rail just to make sure we can stretch it out there. The goal is the ring steel with this rifle at 1,000 yards. It does have the smaller sporter style barrel on it, so it is going to heat up quick. It's not a PRS rifle by any means, big bull barrel. It's not an F-class barrel. I also like to, on the rail there, rings, everything, hit it with some alcohol. Just, it's all aluminum, but sometimes there is some residual oil, and I don't want it to mess with anything. I've used tons of different rails. I've used Vortec rails. I've used Leupold rails. I've used no-name Chinese knockoff rails, Wheeler rails. God, you name it, I've used them. So I'm not really particular on the rails, guys. Got 4 little screws there. Some rails, not this rail, but some rails come with the 4 screws, right? And on the back screws where the the height's adjusted for the 20 minutes of angle, those screws will be longer because they don't drill them all the way, countersink them all the way through. This rail they did, so all 4 screws were the same length, which is nice, because sometimes you get in that hurry and you put the one longer screw in the front and then your bolt won't close, and it's just weird. So they're steel screws, so make sure you hit them with alcohol too. Get them all cleaned up, get that machining oil off of them. So bam, they're ready to go here. Just wiping, double checking everything, getting any excess alcohol, oil off of them. And then, like I said, I like to hit everything with some blue Loctite. The only thing on this gun so far I've blue Loctited is the rail, and you'll see why here in a minute. I still need to scrub the gun out real good. I've never had a gun come from a factory in the brand new box with a clean barrel, ever. I like to take the guns out of the stocks, check them out a little bit, make sure there's nothing goofy underneath that stock. And on this gun here, we might bed the barrel lug. I haven't taken it apart yet, but just hit that barrel lug with some bedding compound or epoxy, let it dry, 24 hours, and just to help it a little bit rigid here, give it a hold on there so it's not moving around. And on my finger there, I got Loctite all over because I'm a slob and just squeezed too hard and it came shooting out of there. So, don't waste it. So I just wiped it on the screws and just getting it started here. And Outer Impact said they wanted 25 inch-pounds on these screws, which sounds about right. It doesn't take a lot, guys, to hold these things together. Even the Magnum rifles, it does not take a lot. Do not over torque your stuff. And I've seen guys that have over torqued their stuff, and it's just, that's where their accuracy issue is. Stuff is just way over torqued, twisted, and then they, you know, they blame everything but themselves. So torque it to the specs, guys and gals. That's why the manufacturer gave you a spec on it. Torque it. So we'll just clean up the excess blue Loctite there. I still don't know what I did on the other video, how I screwed that up, but I did something wrong. So I just got a plain Jane. It's my electrician torque wrench. I'm an electrician, just an electrician torque screwdriver. I set it to 25 inch-pounds. And I do need to invest in a little bit holder for the end. It doesn't hold my bits very good, but that's okay. I make do with it. Back to the budget thing. You know, I don't do this a lot. Once a year or so, or a couple times a year for buddies. So, I mean, if I did it every day, it'd be probably get me one of those Wheeler wrenches that everything works great. So, you know, stagger your torque. Don't just torque it all in a line. You know, alternate like you're doing a cylinder head or something. Alright, so we got all that torqued up. So, I don't know why I'm leveling the gun here right now, because I'm going to knock it around and stuff. So these are Wheeler rings. This is the first time I've ever dealt with Wheeler rings. Extremely affordable. I got another rifle, a long-range rifle, 6.5 PRC Bergara rifle. Love that rifle. But I put some pretty high, in my eyes, high-dollar Vortex rings on there, like $150+ for the rings, for little aluminum rings. And these bad boys came out at $44.99, and they look great. They even have there's a little level on the side of them, on the back one, that I'm not too keen on that because it's not machined into the ring. It's got 4 screws, so later in this video I'll level up the scope and then level up the ring. You know, make sure everything's good to go. So we'll see how that works out. So right now I'm just pulling the caps off the rings. This feels very awkward, talking into a microphone while watching myself on a video. But we'll make this work, huh? So now I know, watch the video after I export it and make sure there's some audio. So right there, I think I went over to grab well, I don't know what I went over there to grab. I went over to grab something. So right now I'm fighting this ring onto the base, and it's got the it says it will fit on any picky rail, and it will. But you know, some of the bases got on these scope rings got a round shaft going through. This one's got a square one, and I wasn't paying that close attention, and it was cocked at probably a 45-degree angle, so the triangle part, or not, yeah, the triangle, the pointy part of the square was pointing down. So once I realized that I was fighting something that I would never win against, I actually took the time, looked at it, spun it correctly, and it went right on, popped right on perfectly. But I'm digging these rails. It looks like great machine quality. They just look tough too. So there, I finally took the time and stopped fighting it, got her on there. Now it looks like I'm popping the caps. Actually, I might have been messing with that little level, because when I opened the box, that little level was so cockeyed on there that I tried to straighten it up. I spent the morning up in the mountains, and My allergies are going crazy now. So I was just putting the scope up just to see where I wanted to put the next scope ring at on the rail. I am super jazzed to go shoot this rifle. As hard as it is finding ammo right now, I just hand loaded some 139 grain Hornady Spire points just to get through barrel breaking. Just picked the recipe out of the book about middle of the line with the powder that I had and the bullets I had. We'll go get our barrel breaking done and then get to some serious hand loading for this thing. I like those Tipton gun vices that hold your gun good, and it's got all these little holes and little pockets that you can put stuff in so everything's not shooting all over the place. Definitely a good investment, and they're pretty affordable too. I think I picked that one up on sale for like 49 bucks. So now I'm gonna just, like I said before, even though it's aluminum, I still like to hit it with some alcohol. Just make sure you got clean surfaces. Yeah, it's steel screws going in the metal, so there definitely might be some residual oil there somewhere. So that's at Arken Optics SH-4. Super excited to shoot that scope. First focal plane, extremely affordable. I mean, if you're going to buy a comparable scope from Leupold or Vortec or anybody else, I mean, you're at $1,000 bucks. Leupold, you're at $2,000. Burris, you're at $2,000. All them German glass guys, I mean, you're well over $2,000. So this company's out of Texas, so I'm like super stoked. I'm really hoping this thing works out the way I'm hoping, and get another one or two ordered, because I got 2 more builds I want to do for this channel, and one of them is a budget PRS build off an action I already have. So, you know, shooting long range PRS, and if this scope does everything I'm hoping that it does, going to be awesome. So you guys probably noticed I didn't torque down the base of the rings to the rail yet, and I didn't hone out the rings either. Wheeler's got a really nice scope ring hone to square everything up. I'm not going to go buy a 34 millimeter hone for this. I mean, back to the whole budget thing. I think they wanted like 59 bucks for that chunk of steel, bar steel, which is, I mean, they got to make money. I'm not knocking them one bit, but I just didn't want to do it. So these are nice, big, thick, lots of surface area to grab that scope. So I just snugging it, put the rings on and snugged it down, so at least the rings are square to the scope. Now, I know, guys, when I torque the 2 big nuts down onto the rail from the scope rings, I know it's going to contort. It's going to move the scope wherever the angle of that rail is going. I get that, but it's going to do it no matter what. Once I put the top caps on them rings, so I just wanted to get everything as square as possible on the rings, and then torque the scope rings to the base. So right now I'm just making sure it's where I want it to be. Now, I used to have a piece of bar stock, a flat piece of bar stock about 1/4 inch tall, and the perfect width to slide right in these actions, right on the lug rails of your bolt. And I cannot find that thing for anything. So just using levels and eyeballing it. I did put the You see me putting the level in there. That did actually sit right on the lug rails. I had to put a little pressure on it, but it did sit on there. And after holding the rifle up and looking through the rifle multiple times off video, I think I don't want to say I'm right on the money, but I'm right on the money. I mean, I even put it on what I used to shoot out at the range with, and everything felt nice and square. The crosshairs nice and level, so I'm happy with it. Now you might be able to see there's quite a bit of room between the barrel and the bottom of the scope. I went with the medium rings because I went with the medium rings on a different rifle. Very similar setup, except it was only 30 millimeter, and it came out absolutely perfect. A 30 millimeter tube against a 34 millimeter tube, and maybe that's where I got screwed up just a scotch. So I do have the low rings ordered, because on this other build I'm going to put a big straight barrel. I don't even want to call it a bull barrel. It's just a chunk of steel with it rifled, nice and straight. So these other medium rings should work perfect on that other build. Same scope I'm hoping to put on that other build, that PRS build I was talking about. Right here I'm holding it up, just looking through it, like, all right, is this thing cocked? And I like it. It's perfect for me. And you guys know, growing up, like, if it was perfect for your dad, it was perfect for you. So if my son doesn't want this gun, which I'm pretty confident after we get a load developed for it, he's not gonna want to shoot another gun for a long time. I think this will turn into his primary hunter, depending on what we're hunting for. But yeah. If it's good enough for me, it's good enough for him, kind of thing right now, So had to run over and grab a proper torque wrench. They wanted 40 to 50 inch-pounds on those half-inch nuts. So I got it cranked to 48, and boom, it's set. So once I get the low rings, I'll even Loctite that stuff. Now I'm going to go through and hit there's 6 screws per scope ring on these wheeler rings. So go through torque. Same thing, guys. Alternate your torquing. Just don't start on one corner and rip across. Alternate like you're doing that cylinder head. But once I get those smaller rings, I will Loctite even that half-inch nut. I'm not gentle on my stuff when I'm out hunting. I've fallen down, not all the way down the whole side of a 2,000 foot mountain, but I've slid down, fallen down. You can look at my scopes. There's dents in them, there's scratches in them, and they work like a champ. And I can't remember a time I've ever had to re-zero scope after falling down, but most of my scopes are Leupold. I do have a couple Vortec, but I'm a Leupold guy, and I'm turning into a Vortec guy. I'm really hoping to turn into a Arken Optics guy. Check out the unboxing on this scope video I got. The scope is it's built like a brick shithouse, guys. It's 2.25 pounds. This thing is tough built. So I'm really excited to see what it can do. I know I've said that like 30 times, but I'm just awkward as hell just sitting here watching a video of myself. So get them all torqued down. I will also blue Loctite those 6 screws per ring as well. I don't want, once it's set, once it's sighted in, I don't want it coming apart whatsoever, unless I need it to come apart. But if we're out in the field, I do not want any issues with my equipment. If I have any issues with the equipment, that equipment's gone. if we have any issues with these rings, if we have any issues with this scope, it's gone. It's replaced with something that I've used in the past. I've never used anything on there except for that Weatherby rifle. I stand behind Weatherby, and I don't know anybody who's ever had an issue with Weatherby rifles, but anything on the upper deck of that bad boy, if there's a problem with it, we're changing it out, because we live off that meat. We're not going to give up a shot opportunity just because a damn screw came loose. But alright, we're all bolted together here, guys. So we're just going through the final parts there. Had to have somebody come in the garage here and grab something. Sorry about that. So I'm just going over the budget of this rifle. So my goal was to make $1,000 or less budget long range hunting rifle. So the rifle came out at $589. You can find these rifles on sale, $500, sometimes cheaper in non-magnum calibers. But so the rifle was $589. The scope was $449. The rail was the rail was $44.95, and the rings were $44.99. So we're running at $1,127.94. I threw 8% tax on that, and it came out to $1,218.18. So if I was able to find like that Thompson Center rifle, I think those are going for $350. We would have been like pretty dang close to that $1,000 mark. But that Thompson Center only had a 22-inch barrel. This one's got a 26. So that 4 inches is going to sure help with that longer range accuracy. I do prefer the longer barrels. Right now I'm just, that little level I was telling you about on the side of the gun, or on the side of the ring, I'm just trying to get that thing leveled up how it should be to the scope. And I've also seen guys, they'll put a piece of string across level, and then they'll, you know, set it all up, their crosshairs to that string. And I don't like doing that, because if your crosshairs aren't level to your scope turrets, then there's something wrong. It all should be square to each other. But that's it for this one, guys. This is the first video. The next video will be rifle break-in and load development, and the third video will be out at the steel range, just blasting steel. And the goal is 1,000 yards. You know, that's the goal, to put shots on steel consecutively at 1,000 yards. Now remember, I said this has got the sporter barrel on it, so it's not gonna handle multiple shots really well. I mean, Weatherby guarantees this rifle 3 shots, 1-inch group, at 100 yards. Especially on the magnum calibers, on these thinner barrels, it's going to keep heating up, and that barrel is going to start kicking and swirling, and you're going to have grouping issues, accuracy. So my goal is to have this gun shooting 1/4 inches at 100 yards. That's the goal. Shooting 1,000 yards steel and 1/4 inch at 100 yards. So that pretty much wraps up this video. Got less than 30 seconds, but the trigger on the gun's phenomenal. I like the setup. I still got to rip it apart, possibly bed the barrel lug, torque down the action screws on the base plate. I did have a problem with my first Weatherby, called Weatherby. They said tighten the hell out of them. So I tightened the hell out of them, and it did great. So guys, let me know what you thought about this video. I do apologize about the audio, guys. I really do. So y'all have a great night.